Hello, my name is Michael O'Keefe, aka The Movie Wizard. If you enjoy this interview and want to hear more top-notch film industry conversations, please press the thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and hit the bell to stay in the know. So, hello, Alexandra Pechman. Tell my audience what they can expect with your short film, Thumb.
Well, it is a spooky short film in the small gauge trauma section at Fantasia Film Festival this year. It is about a young woman who's been left her very infamous, well-known mother's artistic estate. Her mom is a performance artist, and then her artistic legacy, it turns out, has something a bit more to it, and perhaps haunted.
Maybe a little spooky.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was the first thing that inspired you to do this short, and what was the creative journey like?
So I used to be an art journalist. I wrote for, I worked at magazines like Art News and Aperture, wrote for a bunch of places like W and Vogue and what have you. And while I was researching something else, I met a curator who told me she was doing this exhibition and she almost didn't get to include this really important work because this very minor artist, her sister owned her archive and wouldn't let anyone see the work. And I'd heard stories like this about different artistic estates being restricted by kind of weird relationships with their heirs or the people who buy the artistic estate. And I thought that was really interesting and thought that could make for a really cool ghost story. Like maybe the sister didn't let the work out because it was haunted. And so Kate Adams and I have known each other for like 13 years. She's a really talented actress, but I've even known her before she started acting. And we started kind of conceptualizing, having wanted to make something together. What would a short based on that kind of look like? We thought the idea of a mother and daughter would be really interesting just in terms of the idea of legacy and being a female artist and creator, and how, you know, you can kind of become an art monster, like in not being there for your kids or whatever. So we really just ran with it, and then we shot it last year.
Okay, and like from like kernel of inspiration to finished products, how long did that take?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, we started talking about the idea at the end of 2018.
Oh.
But we didn't, you know, we talked about it and we're like, oh, that'd be kind of cool to do. And then we both got busy. Luckily, you know, Kate's a working actress. I'm a working screenwriter. I wrote a horror movie that I sold. It's on Hulu now, called Tentacles. Kate was in a few movies, including No Man of God that just came out. And so we had some, you know, money to invest into doing something by the time we were able to do it, as well as fundraising, obviously. And then it was sort of like, I think it was the beginning of 2020 when Tentacles was filming, we really started feeling like, okay, we could do this, we could get it together. And then COVID happened, and really actually having the script super tight, COVID numbers going down, people kind of going back to shoot tentatively. Okay, it's now or never, we got to do it.
That's great. And No Man of God is awesome. That was my favorite movie at Tribeca this year.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, so because I didn't get to go to Tribeca, but yeah, and she's one of the ladies who's killed.
Oh, well, we'll leave it at that. It's a great Elijah Wood, Ted Bundy movie. So, okay, so tell me about talking to your actors, and what did they bring, and what was the vibe like during the shoot?
I mean, I think that protecting the actor's creative space is just you know, obviously everyone being safe in terms of health and physical safety, telling the story, and then the actors, like that is just my job while I'm directing. And so luckily we had Demorge, who's just a really delightful, zany, incredibly creative person who Kate and him got along incredibly well. And watching them find things together and find a chemistry and really become friends was really like just a wonderful delight of shooting something that for those who will see it or have seen it, is not really a delightful story. I mean,
Right.
it's kind of devilish, but maybe not delightful. So yeah, I mean, we definitely rehearsed the really long scene where we don't cut. There's for those who haven't seen it, there's like it's like a 3-minute long Steadicam oneer where we're circling around the actors, and they just really brought their all to that and super prepared. And that was just a really amazing scene to put together. And also, yeah, and obviously they have to do some really crazy things that they were really game for. And we had a lot of fun together.
That's great. So is it gratifying to have Thumb included in the Fantasia International Film Festival?
I mean, this is the first thing that I've ever directed. So I wasn't expecting, anything. And to get to be included in this festival that so many films that I love have come through, like, feature length, but Cam and Come True from last year, and and all the other really great people who I've now seen, everyone in my block, and feel really honored to be included among that work.
Nice. Yeah, it's a great festival. It's really long, 3 weeks.
Yeah, right. And there's a lot of shorts. I mean, I think that's what's really cool about Fantasia is people are really focused on the shorts, and you have everything from Sexy Furby to The Tenant, which was in my block and I really loved, to I saw a really cool animated short called Fruit. Like I've really enjoyed the shorts a lot. So it feels great to be part of something where that gets a lot of attention.
Definitely. I actually reviewed the short submissions this year. I was one of those people. Yeah. So it was pretty fun. I reviewed 170 shorts.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, I'll have to pick your brain later about what that is like. I'm so curious, because it's just, I was telling my friend, it's like applying to college. Well, actually, I don't know if it's like this in Canada, but it's like applying for college where you're just like waiting.
Right. Okay, so I would love to hear about your experience writing for Blumhouse, the show available on Hulu, Tentacles Into the Dark. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it was a spec script that I had written about, kind of inspired by entering a new relationship and how close is too close. And when you start to fall in love with someone, do you start to lose yourself? And the horror of that, and, the scariness of becoming totally infatuated with someone and losing your identity. And then also, what if that actually happened, right? So that's sort of what the film deals with. And then it was picked up by Blumhouse TV to be part of their Into the Dark series that they were doing, where they put out a horror movie, like a feature-length episode, but basically a movie every month. And it was out in February for Valentine's Day, appropriately.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, and I didn't direct that. Clara Aranovic directed that, and it stars Dana Drory and Casey Dietrich as the couple.
It must have been. I'm assuming you're happy with the results, but like, was it scary, like chucking it over to somebody else? Like now it's in your quarter.
I think I wouldn't have directed a short so soon after had I not had that experience, because I just got to learn so much, and I got to be on set for part of it and really just absorb. And she had been working for a while, and really technically really strong filmmaker. There's some really beautiful shots, and really focused on her relationship with the actors, and really talented. So I got to learn a lot from just watching, and
no complaints. Okay, cool. So what are some dark, sexy stories that might have been a subconscious influence on you?
Ooh, I mean, like it's like from childhood. No. I mean, I love movies like I love a lot of the, Giallo movies, right?
Ooh.
Where I think that they're, I say that like thumb is giallo tinged, like not full scope, but it has like those kind of gothic elements that, you know, I love. I've brought up these two films, but like The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, or A Quiet Place in the Country, which is about an artist and is very sexy. I think that there's often like that kind of element in those very heightened operatic Italian horror movies of a certain, you know, post 60s era. But I mean, I also really love this movie, Daughters of Darkness. Yeah, that's a big influence on me of late. But or not of late. I saw it a few years ago. But yeah, I mean, in terms of things that I grew up watching from childhood, I mean, it's like I don't think Hitchcock movies are that sexy necessarily, but those were the movies that like really made me love horror. I guess Vertigo is very much an influence on, I mean, on something like Tentacles, of losing yourself in someone else, and it does have to do with sex and gender. And I mean, that's probably my favorite movie other than this guy right here, The Shining.
Right.
I'm wearing a The Shining shirt.
I love the melancholy in Rear Window for sure. Oh, sorry, Vertigo. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah, I mean, that I return to that movie so much. And it's funny where it's like, it's not really a classic horror movie, and it's gothic, and you think there's going to be some kind of haunted element. I mean, I feel like everybody's seen it so many times, but I really do return to it again and again, and you really do start it thinking it's going to be a horror movie, and it's not.
Since you talked about giallos, I got to mention one movie that I would love to get your reaction to, or you know, just hear what you had to think. There's a movie called The Devil's Honey.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Oh, it's so cool. It's by Lucio Fulci, who did his fair share of Italian horror movies. And it's like sort of almost like a smut or a melancholic drama, let's say. But like there's this, I don't want to ruin it, but there's this scene with the saxophone very early on that it's just like you kind of had to see it to believe it. There's no like prepping I could do for it, but that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, some of those old movies, I've been rewatching some recently, like What Have You Done to Solange and
Nice
Night Train Killers. It's like,
yeah,
it is. That was a different.
Yeah, you can't get away with that stuff now.
No, I mean, nor should you, but it's like it is. It is really strange to do a time warp and go back to some, you know, and there's obviously really valuable things in those films besides what I'm thinking of, but
sure. Okay, so before the projects we've been talking about, you wrote for magazines and even the New York Times, for God's sake. So tell me about how writing for print prepared you for writing for the screen.
You know, I think that the two things are not that similar. I mean, they're similar in that when you're writing action lines and prose within your screenplay, that you have to have a similar skill set. I think listening to transcriptions for 10 plus years of doing interviews with people, as I'm sure you know, and then listening for the cadences of how people really talk and what it sounds like, giving people a particular personality through their dialogue. But most of the things feel pretty aesthetic like that, where I think that the main thing that I learned writing scripts is how important structure is. And structure is important when you're a journalist or you're writing something in prose, but it's not quite the same as a time-based medium where people need to, you know, really sit and watch the thing from beginning to end. They're not going to come back to it. I mean, I guess now in our streaming era they can, but, you know, ideally not. And so I feel like the journalism side is more similar to the directing side, in that you jump into some situation and you're reporting and trying to gather your material and your string and bring it back to the editing room. That kind of hustle feels very comparable.
Okay. Noted. Well, thank you for
Yeah.
that. So I went to LA in 2019. I spent a week stayed in Santa Monica, spent time in Hollywood, went over here, went over there, lots of fun. But I haven't been there during COVID. And what's it like? Is it? I mean, obviously it's different. Is it crazy? I've heard some things. What's it like?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, things have definitely gotten better, but I mean, we still only have 50% vaccination rate in the country. I mean, it's higher in LA for sure, but it's yeah, we're in some bizarre limbo of normalcy. But it is just wild that, I mean, I was hearing last night on my panel that like 75% of Canadians are vaccinated now or something like that. Is that right?
Sure. I don't know.
And then it was
Yeah.
like the effort was much later than it was here.
Yeah.
But
It was definitely later. We didn't have the same the speedy rollout. Like I had my second vaccination like a month ago.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I mean, people here were in March, so
Right.
it's February. So I don't know. I mean, in terms of shooting, it seems like people have adopted these protocols, and a lot of them are in some ways good protocols just to have in general, maybe. And we, did our protocols when we were shooting. The numbers were really low when we did. It was in October 2020. But I know about, lots of people going back to shooting, whether it be in LA or other places in the country. And yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert on
Right.
COVID, but
Clearly neither am I.
unfortunately, I mean, all I do is make movies. But and right. But yeah, it's a very eerie time.
Yeah, it stinks. I can't wait for it to be over. But whatever that means.
And yeah, I think masks are here to stay.
Yep. So what is your approach to writing? Do you have a writing ritual, or are you a binge writer?
A little bit of both, but more the former. I mean, I have a really strict schedule, and I mean, obviously everything always changes, but I pretty much write from or sit down to work from 8 or 9 to 4 or 5 every day. Like, I come from an office environment where I was an editor and would come in, 10 to 6 or whatever it was, and take my lunch break and all that. And I really have stuck to that. And I feel really grateful that I come from that background of working in very quiet offices where everyone is reading and sitting at their desk and very focused. And, making a magazine is like making a movie in a lot of ways. You're bringing together everybody's different talents to make this thing, this object that everybody enjoys outside of your crew. And so yeah, I think that has stayed with me a lot. And I try to, but then if I get a really good idea that I love, then, I mean, I love all my ideas, but like sometimes something comes along where you're just like, wow, I have to finish this really soon. I have to get it done now. That you binge a little bit. Like, I'm trying to finish the feature length version of Thumb right now, and I really want to have it done and I've been working on it for a while, but I think now that the film got into festivals, I'm really wanting it to be finished sooner than my normal schedule would allow.
Okay. Well, Alexandra, I really appreciate you making time for this conversation. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too. So that's what's going on in the future, the Thumb feature length movie. What else do you have planned for the future before I let you go?
I'm writing another script, and then I have some other projects that are in various stages of development, specs and pitches and other things that are for other directors. And now the things that I'm currently writing are things that I hope to direct.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.